Conquergood's article, Rethinking Ethnography Towards a Critical Cultural Politics. My thesis is that we do not just use critical thinking to create ethnography. We have to use various components that are to have a full-rounded ethnography. And so let's talk about the main ideas. So one of the main ideas is the beginning of the article, critical theory. So what is that? Critical theory is the science and knowledge being politicized, And there's various ways to politicize this. And there's various theorists who disagree with how to do it. So we talk about how there are ways that some people agree and people disagree on, which brings us to ethnography. And that is the research and text being shown from critical theory. But then we decided that some of the things that we thought were okay were kind of flat and distance ourselves from the reader and the people that we are interviewing and researching about. And we weren't necessarily talking to them, we were observing them from afar. And so there's that idea that we needed to do a crisis of representation and start self-reflexive questioning, which leads us to critical rethinking. And there's 4 themes that intersect in critical rethinking. It's it's return of the body, boundaries and borderlands, rise of performance, and rhetorical reflexivity. So I'm going to be honest, I don't really understand rhetorical reflexivity still, but I'll try to elaborate on it. So let's start with the return to the body. So in past, when they are upset about how exactly ethnography is being told, there was this type of way of doing things, like I said before. But now we're deciding that we should go ahead and talk with the people and include their points of views and not just put it as these objective things in these articles that are the ethnography. And so Johannes Fabian, for example, says on page 182, that we should have contemporary time, which basically is saying you acknowledge that you're sharing the time with somebody actively and acknowledge that you're an equal of theirs, because that's important. So let's turn to boundaries and borderlands. So Rizaldo, one of the really cool dudes, on page 184, he says how borderlands are like the best place to do ethnography because they are zones of difference and they are busy intersections, which I enjoyed that he said busy intersections. I thought that was interesting because there's various cultures included in these borderlands, which are margins and which are very good places for ethnographers to go to find various perspectives. And Clifford says that refugees, exiles, homeless people, etc. put culture into motion, basically saying that they're also bringing their culture with them. That was on page 185. And then the next theme is the rise of performance, which Victor Turner is very famous for, talking about homo personas, performas, which is the humanity of performers. And so it's talking about how they so basically he has the performance paradigm, which privileges particular, participatory, dynamic, intimate, precarious, embodied experience grounded in historical process, contingency, and ideology. So what does this mean? Basically, you need to have face-to-face encounters to fully understand people, and there's these cultural performances that you have, which are weddings and bar mitzvahs and festivals, these types of things to control these, to control the performance paradigm. But also, not only do we have this, but there's also this really cool thing where we can kind of go throughout the performance studies classroom, which is bringing these political ideas to the front and sharing them with people and seeing how they react in certain situations, but not making it seem like, oh, this is what we're gonna do. And it's saying how we should bring the syntactic more up front than the semantics. This is page 189 when this saying this, and we should stop. I really enjoyed this quote on 188. I'm not sure who, I think it was Turner. He was saying that we need to stop fetishizing texts, which was very interesting. So lastly, we talked about rhetorical reflexivity. Again, I don't really understand this, so I'm going to be quick about it and just look at what it says in the text, which it says that Geertz asks how, why, in what way, of what does all the resolute informing inform. And it's talking about how disciplinary authority is matter of rhetorical strategy. So my questions for this next class is, what exactly can somebody help me with understanding rhetorical reflexivity more? And my other question is, what do you think the most important theme is?